Welcome back to Fit Focus Media, a show we put the focus on fitness. Now today we are joined by Johnny Bravo, also known as Ash Langbein. But who is Ash Langbein? Well, he's a person just like you and me. But Ash, let you do a little bit more of an introduction of yourself for the people. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my man.
My background, I've always been playing sport at a pretty competitive level. Football, soccer, started competing at a pretty high level back in New Zealand. Always chasing that next step up, it was never good enough playing social leagues. It was academies down in Christchurch, working my way through the representative grade, National Youth League, playing all over the country, and then moved to Australia. And just like every other sport I've played, I want to play to the highest. It wasn't just, hey, I want to get on stage, get a few shots. It was, this is a sport to me. I've got a competitive athlete background. I treat the sport exactly the same. As much as I don't like using the term, I'm trying to optimise everything I can to be able to get to the highest level I possibly can within the sport as an actual athlete. Getting sleep on point, nutrition, training, everything. So I love it, real passion. I sort of fell into it, I guess. So 2019 was my first competitive season. Did an 8-week prep. It was pretty tough, short, sharp, very stressful. I was lucky enough that I had a pretty good physique leading into it. I'd been training for would have been about 7 years in the gym at that point.
I guess I've got a pretty hectic sports background. Pretty much played any sport that you can name. I grew up over in Western Australia. I'm born and bred here.
I knew there was something off about you. That explains a lot now.
Yeah. A lot of people they hear I'm Kiwi, and then I tell them I was born in WA, and they're like, "You're a fraud." So born in WA, went back and forth from New Zealand to Australia several times now, and I've been based in Brisbane for close to 8 years now. Love it. Been working through pools, gyms, staying in the fitness industry for probably the better part of a decade now. Started as a lifeguard, still got my lifeguard qualification a decade later. So started out as just a university job, led me to the career I'm in now in venue management, which is pretty awesome. Didn't really think much of it at the time. Done my sports science degree. I've got my Sports Nutrition Australia accreditation. Stay pretty up to date to current research in the fitness and nutrition field. It's a real passion of mine. So hence why I've stuck at it as a secondary job, personal training and nutrition as well.
Yeah, nice. And well and truly my own coach as well. So good to have you on. Good to have a bit of a chat and try and dig a little bit deeper and find out a bit more about yourself. But just sort of touching back on the education side of things, because you are extremely educated when it comes to like the technical side of sports nutrition, training, all this sort of stuff. And you said that you're currently you manage a gym and you work in that sort of field. What was, I guess, the reasoning for going down that path when you are really highly educated in the, I guess, the technical side of things?
I guess I kind of fell into it. It almost stemmed from two parts. I'd been coaching for years throughout, even before I started my degree. I was coaching youth soccer just as an assistant. Did assistant goalkeeper training. I was actually more of a striker, so the goalkeeper coach had a decent player to train the goalkeepers against, but also youth, mainly females soccer, but football, but males and females mixed teams as well. From that stemmed a bit of a leadership field, and found I really enjoyed it. That sort of went into my career when I started as a lifeguard. As always, I don't just want to be just one of the workers. I want to lead the team. It was always a real interest of mine. So when it came to the next step, there wasn't really a thought of, hey, this is going to be my career, venue management. For me, even my dad laughs about it nowadays when I start talking about business and budgets and forecasting, and he rolls his eyes and thinks, man, I always thought you'd just be on a surfboard with a beer on a beach somewhere. Yes. And you'd be winning at life, So I sort of just fell into the field, starting as a lifeguard, and it was in the fitness industry per se, because it was part of gyms, pools, it's fitness facilities.
Yep.
So when I moved to Australia, it was fairly easy job to get, paid double what you get in New Zealand as a lifeguard. And then started working at QUT at Gardens Point there, 1,500 square metre gym, 50 metre competition pool, rubbing shoulders with Olympians, there under Coach David Lush. That was a pretty awesome experience. So
it's always good, like when you can get yourself in a room with like the people that you like aspire to be, like the people that are performing at the top of their game. It just like it pushes you to do better and to be better, and you just I guess like see and you get to know that these are just real people in the same sense. It's like, wow, if they're doing it, like really what's stopping me from going out and pursuing these things and pushing really hard.
100%.
I mean, it's one thing. This could have carried over from when I first met you. It's like meeting someone who was doing very well in the sport of bodybuilding and, ended up taking out their pro card. And that sort of like led into meeting a lot of other people in the industry now. And it's really sort of pushing me to actually get back on track with the diet, get back on track with training, stick to it. And I guess understand that there is more of a community aspect to it. And it's not, I guess, so much of a challenge if you open yourself up to the possibility of it.
100%, yeah. I guess... I feel like too many people get hung up on, what's my career going to be when they're 12, 13 years old, because that's the way the school system works nowadays. You've almost got to know so that when you choose your electives through, we call it college in New Zealand, but high school here, when you're choosing your electives, you need to be going into maths, science, high-level English, stuff like that, to be able to actually get into the certain university courses or universities, in particular that you want to attend for the courses that you want to do. If not, you end up doing, I'm not sure what it's like here, but the almost the scapegoat of university qualifications in New Zealand was psychology. So people would try and get into a university, and if they didn't have the credits in the certain courses that they required, they'd end up just going into psychology because it's an easy entrance. It's good to see that, it's not that way anymore. I think at least the people that have studied psychology I know here, very well educated as well. It was actually a chosen field rather than just, hey, I've got nothing else I can enter, so I'll just do this.
I mean, so as far as like you personally goes, like going down that road, like that route of I guess like conventional education and things like that, how did you actually find that process of like going through school and doing your proper like your accreditations, your certification, all that sort of stuff? Because I know for say myself, I just wasn't a massive fan of the schooling system. I didn't enjoy school. I didn't put any effort into it, any attention to it. I skipped class a lot of the times. And in the end, I ended up actually dropping out of high school and teaching myself pretty much the majority of things I know through life experiences and online courses, YouTube, things like that. Learning from people that I guess I could relate more to and that I could build more trust with. So again, I guess comparing the two different routes that we've taken, where it's, I guess, conventional education system versus more self-taught online based. How did you find that process and like the pros and the cons of doing that for yourself?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually very similar to you in respect of high school wasn't for me. I was exactly the same. I was skipping out on a lot of classes. I dropped things, like I started, say, chemistry and statistics, for example, and I think I dropped them after about 6 weeks because we had some early tests and I failed them miserably. And I still remember the teachers hitting me up after like 6 weeks and be like, look, this probably isn't for you. Maybe you should just leave. I'll mark you president on the roll. Just go elsewhere, just go to your tutor.
Maybe you should go get a surfboard and go chill on the beach. That's pretty much what they're saying.
They basically said, leave my class and I'll mark you president until you're off my roll, just because I don't want the burden of you in here, which I agree with. And I was like, hang on a minute, that just means more free time. So I picked up some more basic, like hands-on classes, like woodwork and home economics, was basically just cooking. They were what I was interested in because it was using my hands, it was doing stuff, and it was sort of the only more technical class I was still doing was sort of high level PE. I can't remember what we called it back then, but it was not just doing sport but also going into the theoretical side of it and the science side of it.
For us, we had like you had your standard PE, and then you had like health and human development, and then you had like exercise, like science was like you had like a few different categories of that, I guess like main subject that you could go into, and I really enjoyed those classes. And I think that's what also comes down to this whole, I guess, belief that you're either smart or stupid. I think it's more so just the things you have interest in and the things that you want to do well at, you will do well at. For like me personally, I said this to one of the other guests we had, like when I was applying for the military, I couldn't actually get in because my year 10 English and science grades were too low. I failed them so badly that I could not actually qualify, and I would have had to do like an equivalency test. The same year, I actually was in year 10 and I was doing year 12 PE and health education, topped my class without opening a textbook.
Yeah.
Once. Just because I was interested in it. You know, I was skipping class and I was going to the gym most days. It was what I had a personal interest. It was the thing that I could just spend hours of my time watching, listening to, and go full gun in it. You know, and same as when it comes to like the video side of things. It's something that I have an interest in, I'm passionate about, so I can just non-stop just spend my time learning about it, the ins and the outs, and just progressing in that field. So I really think it comes down to like picking those strengths and being true to yourself as to what you actually believe in or what you actually enjoy doing, following that and just sort of letting it run, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, once, going back to obviously the chemistry and statistics, for example, in high school, absolute failure, in high school. But then once I got to uni, obviously I really enjoyed sports science in high school. So I was like, last minute, hey, you know what, maybe I'll pursue this at uni, see how we go. And I was flying once I started. I was what people would consider, the academics of our class, who would be expected to get the high 90 percentile of the class. I was beating a lot of them in the very academic based, like science, chemistry, physics papers. Because for me, it was just a sheer passion. And it went from, how am I going to apply this just theory that we're learning in high school, to let's put it into something I enjoy. Physics. Let's talk about, mass and acceleration, with a sprinter. Yeah. Awesome. I love this. This is something that interests me. How do I make a sprinter better? How do we look at power to weight ratio, power generation, that sort of stuff. Whereas when you're just looking at theory in a textbook and applying it to nothing but the theory itself, that just bored the hell out of me.
Exactly, you get bored. As soon as you're not interested in something, as soon as you check out that little bit, you're done. Like there's no point in pushing on.
Yeah.
I think that also carries over to even when you're doing work and things like that. I feel like a massive problem that people get into is they see this massive pile of work that they have to do. They have to get it done, and it's like if they can't sort of smash it all out all at once, then it's going to be the end of the world. Rather than, I guess, like an approach that I've been trying lately and really enjoying, which is working really hard at something that I'm doing, having like a list of like the different, I guess, tasks or objectives I need to get done, working really hard at one. And when I start to feel like I'm slipping off on it or I'm just not enjoying it for like that time block, switch to another. Keep it fresh. When you start to drift off a little, switch to another. And you just sort of like start circling them around and bouncing all over the place rather than just staying repetitive in the same thing and getting bored and then pushing through and really not getting any kind of return on it because you're just not in it anymore. Yeah,
very much task orientated.
Yeah. I guess like one thing I do actually kind of want to ask, touch on that then, is you as a coach, how about like aspirations to sort of pursue that more? Is that something that you are just sort of keeping as a side gig for now? Is that something you want to do more of in the future? Where does that, I guess, factor into your goals, your progression, your past and your future?
Hard to say. I mean, with my career development at the moment, I still really like the way I'm going. I'm a big believer of obviously you should have a couple of passions or a couple of hobbies, one that is for passion that you enjoy and one that pays you. So, I mean, I have a huge passion and interest in training and nutrition, and that obviously, for me, going to the gym, living and breathing a nutritious lifestyle as well, that's part of my hobby. That's an interest for me. It's a passion. How can I take that further? My knowledge that I've garnered, from years of training and focused on nutrition as well as doing extra studies to be qualified as well. How can I help people, further that either don't have the time or the inclination?
Yep.
That way it's another hobby that I can actually better people's lifestyles, but also get some money out of it as well. So it's, when you're not following it up as a, full-time career or, looking at focusing at it full-time, in the future, sometimes, people ask me, what are you doing it for? What are you wasting money on qualifications and time on extra learning? For me, I love it. I'm doing it anyway, whether I'm getting paid or not. So, take you, for example, if I can better your lifestyle, because your focus isn't on learning a whole bunch of stuff about nutrition and training. You want to focus on your business, growing your videography and whatnot, growing Fit Focus Media. you don't have the time or the inclination to start reading journal articles about nutrition.
Exactly. It's one of those things that I've always found is good in pretty much any, I guess, field or industry. And it's something that I think a lot of people sort of do put off, is it's better off to, again, like find that thing that you're interested in, that thing that you're passionate about, and go at it. Don't try and shove too much information and overload yourself too much too often. It's good to know, the basics and the things that you're interested in. Like I still do know the basics when it comes to training, nutrition, all this sort of stuff. I've done it for, years up to this point. But at the same time, is it really worth my time to try and keep force feeding that information in and trying to develop that? When I can just, find someone who I trust, who I can, who I know is as passionate about that as I am about what I'm doing, and get that guidance from them, and whether that's, say, with coaching, whether that's other professional things like, like copywriters, marketing agencies, just other people to assist. I think it's always better to, understand what you're actually good at, and don't try and fight that.
Yeah.
We get caught up in wanting to be the best at everything rather than just being the best at what we actually do and what we actually enjoy.
100%. Biggest struggle I've had in my life.
But I mean, how do you find, I guess, are people receptive to, I guess, like when you are coaching a client, like, have you ever had any issues with people, I guess, who just don't listen or don't want to do it? Or
I'd say not so much don't listen or don't want to do it, more just, struggling to find the motivation or the determination.
Yeah, man, I can attest to that. I asked that question just so I can pull myself out of there. It's like, even I fall victim to that. It's like hire a coach and it's like, I want to start making these changes, but sometimes life just gets in the way, and priorities just fall apart. And I guess for anyone who's going through a similar situation, the biggest thing for me is the sleep aspect, because if I have one good night of sleep again, I'm like back to being perfect. But otherwise, if it just like ticks off an hour a day, it gets like a week down, and honestly, you can't be bothered functioning, let alone hitting your workout, tracking your food, doing all this, and it just seems like the absolute worst thing you could possibly be doing.
Here, I'll try a little test for you. What's the number one thing that everything hinges on?
Sleep.
A little bit lower than that. So adherence. Adherence. We talked about that. So,
well, I guess because like habits in that sense. The process
if you push someone too far, if you let's take diet for example, it's a really easy one. Throw someone on a really deep deficit, just for the sake of losing some fat. If they can't adhere to that, if it's too much of a deficit, if you throw them on like a 30-40% deficit and they can't hold that, what's the point of doing it? Because they're going to stop, they're going to fall off the wagon, they're going to go binge. You need to be able to have them at a level where they can adhere to it, and that's where a lot of coaches coming through now that are obviously focusing on a balanced lifestyle, being able to go out and enjoy a wine or a cocktail on the weekend, but having 80% nutritious foods, having a couple of meals out to enjoy lifestyle, not making it the be all and end all. Now, obviously there is a caveat to that, and that depends on what your goal is. If you have some real serious, fat loss goals or, competitive goals, into physique sport, then you've got to obviously dial it in a wee bit to that, 90-95% range of, hey, you can't enjoy the lifestyle as much, because right now, if you're going to achieve your goals, that lifestyle is being adherent to 90-95% to be able to achieve it. Otherwise, you can't. There's too many people that expect to win on stage, or expect to be X body fat by 2 months' time. If you don't put the work in, to get there, magic's not going to happen.
Of course.
You're not just going to wake up and be like, 10% lower body fat.
Hey man, I can wish, Connor. I can wish. I know it's never going to happen, but I can still sit there and wish that it would. Just overnight.
So what supports your goals? If you're having hunger pangs, you're like, a little bit of KFC won't hurt.
What it won't. It's like book that I've just recently started reading is Atomic Habit. Really good book. Oddly enough, though, one of the habits that I wanted to get into before saying that was actually reading. So it's actually very beneficial, I've found out, to just sort of clear the mind, and actually just taking information from someone else in that format is just very helpful. To
getting busy.
Oh man,
getting busy is sometimes the best thing you can do. Like, I remember when I was in like deep in my competition diet, and I just felt like I had no brain power for anything. And when I'd have like the afternoon, evening hunger pangs, it's like, all right, I just need to find something to do.
Yeah.
Read a book, walk, walk.
I think you just hit it there, because one of the things that I always used to find, because growing up, like going from being very overweight to then I went to a state of pretty much anorexia, and I had a lot of issues with binge eating and just eating disorders in general. And I think that one of the main issues at the time was actually the fact that I was just bored and I didn't realize, and I was using food as part of that coping mechanism. So it is just a matter of keeping your mind occupied. And reading so far has been one of the best things I've actually found for that, because things like there are other things you can use to take your mind off it, like, watching TV, watching movies, social media. But a lot of times all that's doing is just kind of almost like zombifying you in a sense. Like, you don't get anything out of it. You don't really pay attention to it. And it triggers these responses where it's like, now we want the snacks even more because that's what we associate with it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, reading a book, you kind of associate that with like winding down, going to bed, calming down, learning something, taking in some knowledge and information. And it seemed like a really small thing at the time, but it is having like a really good carryover, which is kind of cool to see.
It's awesome you actually bring that up in terms of, reading is very much a lull. It's a longer term thing. You talk about going on social media to try and, break, get your mind busy.
Yep.
Social media is about one thing. It's instant gratification.
Yep.
That's it. You get a notification like, oh, what is it?
Yep.
Yeah, instant gratification. So it's feeding into that idea of, hey, I want to be, gratified now. So, hey, what's this tasty morsel I've got in the cupboard or in the fridge,
Hey man, and it's one of those other things, I guess, where the carryover comes over a little bit. So like I said, going through school, English was one of my worst subjects, and up in like to this day, not to this day actually, but I would always say I can't read, and I couldn't read very well at all. And that was one of the things that stopped me from reading books, was because I just had this like innate belief that I couldn't read, and because of that, it never got better. And one thing I've noticed is that, sure, when I started, it was, I guess, a little bit slow, a little bit tricky, whatever. I was getting used to it. But now it's only been, probably 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I've consistently trying to read a book, and reading aloud I've also found is really helpful, because it's actually helping improve my vocabulary, the way that I can just flow and read off of a book or off a computer, the actual ability to speak the words that I'm reading as well, so I can see them, interpret them, and deliver them again, all in that span. It's improved a lot, which is, I guess, been a really good personal feeling, because it's something that I thought that I always struggled with and that I couldn't do, when really I just needed a little bit of practice and the confidence to actually try it.
It's amazing how much you can attribute to reading in terms of how you speak, how you write. It's I noticed a big difference for me. I used to read probably a lot more so down to time constraints now.
Yep.
But I even notice now, the more I read, some decent, I like some good novels. Right now I'm reading.
I was going to actually ask, do you have any books that you like that are, say, fiction, non-fiction? Any books that have changed things for you?
There's a few. Sales Dogs. I can't remember the author, but it's the Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was awesome. That sort of changed my view.
One, actually.
Yeah, changed my view on sales entirely. Nice. And a lot of people are scared of sales. It's a hot word. Yeah, it's got some danger to it. But
I love books that are around that topic. Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of the first book, audiobooks, because before getting into actually reading, I eased my way into it with audiobooks and stuff. Not the same feeling, but they do serve a purpose. So yeah, anything.
Well, sales is important in every aspect of your life. You go into a job interview. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? You're selling a product. The product is you.
Mate, you meet someone for the first time.
Exactly.
every conversation you have ever is sales. And people have this fear that they're not good at sales, or that they don't know how to do it. If you have a friend, then you're good at sales. You know what I mean? You sold them on your personality.
They're going to be interested in you for some reason.
Exactly. It's not this scary topic, and it's not this thing that should be, I guess, frowned upon either. It's a natural part, and it's a necessity in everyday life.
Yeah.
I guess, was there any key takeaways that you got from that book in particular, just for my personal?
For me, it was there's two parts. It's sort of like an MO that I almost work to in in the fitness industry, or just in life in general now. I mean, you would see it as well, as I mentioned this, in terms of what you saw in me as a coach. You got to have two things: one, passion for the product; two, compassion for the person. If you've got those two things,
you can sell anything.
You can sell anything.
Yep.
Yeah, because you care about the person. You know what their wants and needs are, and you want to be able to service that.
Yep.
And the product. I mean, I say it to say other companies I've worked for in the past. selling gym memberships that are just skyrocketed prices compared to what we offer. And if you can't confidently go in and say, you know what, this is worth it.
Yep.
You can't sell it.
Yep.
You can't. No, you could be the best salesperson. You can't sell it because you don't believe in it. Yeah.
Hey man, that's the exact thing that happened. Like before, like moving full, like more into Fit Focus Media, I was doing membership consulting with the gym, and when I started out, it was a really good run. The sales were coming in, the conversation was going well, I was enjoying it, it was great, and then I just hit a point where I no longer believed in the company that I was working for. I no longer trusted the company that I was working for, and my lead gen just went down the drain. My sales just went down the drain. My attitude towards work just went down the drain. As soon as you, at least for me, as soon as you lose that faith or that trust or that belief, it is nearly impossible to kickstart that again.
Yeah.
And for me, that's always just been, I guess, a cue point to be like, okay, let's be real with it. Is this going to click back? Is there something that's going to change? That's going to make me have that passion or that interest in it again? If not, let's move to the next thing. Because otherwise, it's just going to be wasting my time. It's going to be wasting their time. And the skill sets are better used in something that you can get behind. So I've always just found, that's the best way to go about it. But those two things that you mentioned are spot on, because it eliminates the whole, I guess, like the conversation of price. Like, you're not thinking about how much something costs. Like that it's irrelevant. It does not matter one single bit. What matters is, what are people after? What do they need? How can you help them? Caring about the fact that you're helping them, and then believing in the product that you're serving, and believing in the fact that it can help solve that problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
and if they turn around and say, they're asking for deals or discounts and stuff like that, I mean, you see it, the most common, a lot of PTs, the majority, at least when they start, the majority of the clients are friends and family, and they're always asking for friends and family discount. It's like, you're getting value. That's what you're getting out of me, value. So what you're asking me is to devalue my product.
Yeah.
Which I don't see that as right.
Yeah, it is one annoyance, I guess, when, like say even in what I do, when people try and ask for a discount or things like that, it's like, it devalues the service that I'm doing. And honestly, it takes away, like, it takes me out of what I'm actually doing. You know what I mean? Like, the price is there because that is what I believe is needed to get me 100% emotionally, mentally, everything dedicated into your brand, your success, and this project. If you start to chip away at that or try and pull on that for this, that, and the other reason, it just pulls away on, like, what you're actually doing is you're taking that care, you're taking that passion, and you're just stretching it out, and you're lessening it.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because then if you do go ahead with that project, you go into it and you're not giving 100%, which is unfortunate. I feel like it's the exact same thing for coaches. We assign these values to things because that's what we value them at, and when people try and attack that, it just doesn't end well.
Big time.
Yeah.
Two other books one I've read, another one that I've started, but I'm having trouble getting back into just with a busy period of work at the moment. The one I read is Never Split the Difference. Another one, I can't remember the author, but it's another one around the sales sector, but it's more about negotiation. So he's an ex-FBI negotiator for hostage situations. And he's gone into...
Is that like How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Different book.
Different
author.
I feel like... Because I remember reading a book that was similar to that as well. It was like FBI... Yeah.
So I think now he's got a company called Black Swan Consulting or something like that.
Yeah, I think I've listened to it.
Also, it's an older book, but some awesome stories. Really good if you're looking at getting into business or like hiring business and stuff where negotiation is a big part of it. You can learn a lot from that.
Yeah, nice.
The other one is Menno Henselman. So he biopsychosocial. I can't remember what his background was, but he's done a lot. But he's a academic writer, exercise scientist. He's done a bunch of things, but it's all about discipline, willpower, self-control, and actually going deeper into like what is it and how can we try and control it. So things like, say, losing self-control for a diet. What's the cause factor of that? How do we put in some strategies in place to stop that occurring in the future, or how do we recognize what the triggers are that lead up to it?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, for me, some of the, I guess, like the best books so far, one that I don't think many people would have heard of is called $100 Million Offers by a guy called Alex Hormozy. He's a YouTuber, oddly enough. He's kicking off a lot more lately, but absolutely fantastic guy. I would highly recommend watching his videos, checking out the book. Sort of person where he's fitness related as well, so it kind of relates back into that. But you know, owns a portfolio of companies now. They do about 100 million a year in revenue. Started out by selling, he owned and operated like 6 gyms, sold them. Very educated on the sales side of things and very well spoken as well. That book that he put out, it's I think 99 cents or something like that. So he's not trying to make money off it. That's just like the bare minimum he was allowed to put it at. And it has some of the best like sales and like package forming information in it that I've ever read whatsoever. On his website as well, he has like a 3-part course that you can watch completely free. He's not trying to make anything on it. And I've done like paid courses in like sales and promotion before. Honestly, the information he gives in there pretty much smacks it all out of the park. So I would definitely recommend just checking that out for pretty much anyone. If you do have, even if you just have an interest in sales, business, marketing, the guy's an absolute genius. His YouTube channel is insane. And yeah, just highly recommend that one. That's one too when you get a chance. Outside of that though, Mark Manson's Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Love that book.
Haven't read it yet, to be honest. I do like a lot of Mark Manson's stuff.
Yeah.
I've got notifications on Instagram for a lot of his posts, which being obviously like short format, short, sharp, read. I like to pick up on a lot of, just little snippets that he has.
Yep.
It's awesome.
I like the same thing with Alex again, because he's a YouTuber at heart. Like, YouTube shorts and things like that. So you'll go on and there's like 5 different like mini tips, and they're like high quality information on sales and training and this sort of stuff. And they're bite size as well. So you can just absorb them and sort of move to the next one. But yeah, I even ended up buying Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck a few weeks back when I was in Sydney. I just for not even to reread it, but just for the simple fact that, because I originally had it as an audiobook, and I was like, this book helped me so much with a lot of things that I just want to support the author, and I just want to buy this book and have a hardback copy of it. So how
nice it is actually having a physical book though. Mate. Like I do a lot of audio books and audio readings and podcasts and stuff as well, because of short on time. I'll jump on a treadmill or go for a walk, or during a workout or something like that, I'll listen to a potty or a book. But actually, like reading a physical book, or even if you have like as Menno Henselman's book, I'd listened to the audio already. And I was like, I just want the book. I want to be able to read the physical pages.
Yep. And that was the exact same thing that happened with me. And yeah, it's like I was saying, it was one of the things where I used to listen to audiobooks a fair bit, and it kind of just felt like I'd take little bits and pieces, but the information never really sort of stuck in at all. And I don't know, there was just something about it where I couldn't 100% get into it. So that was one of the main reasons that pushed me towards trying to start reading, was because I'd noticed from audiobooks that you can get some really good information from it. Like the information that a lot of authors deliver is second to none, but it can be a little bit hard to concentrate, focus, and actually absorb that. So it pushed me actually towards physically reading books, and doing that has proved extremely helpful.
Do you highlight your highlights? I do.
So I now have it set up. So get up, make the bed, put the book on the pillow with a highlighter next to it. So that way, and my sleeping mask as well to black it out. So that way, when I go to bed, it's Harry Potter. It's absolutely freaking adorable. Trust me. But yeah, so that way when I go to bed, I can just read a few pages. I don't set like a page goal or anything like that. I'm like, okay, let's just start reading. And when I start to feel like I'm not absorbing it anymore, I'm not taking it or not recognizing, that's wrong.
Having to reread a sentence like 5 times to actually make sense of it. You're like, sleep time.
You can tell when, and even if you don't like physically feel tired, sometimes you can just tell when the information is not getting in anymore, and you're like, okay, that's it. But the highlighter's there, so I just run a few lines through when I see a quote or something that like really sticks. And the goal is to sort of go back through and then take those notes out once the book is, I guess, close to completion. But one thing I have just started doing, the book I'm reading at the moment, Atomic Habit, is I actually also have the audiobook. So like I'll be listening to the audiobook, say when I'm driving, and then I'll be reading the book that night and like, I guess, reconfirming the information that I've been listening to. And that has actually been really helpful as well, because it's helping me speed up my reading as well, because I kind of like half remember some of the words and I can just like daisy chain them along really well. And for absorbing the information, it's proved really good.
The other, just sprung to mind, the other 2 audiobooks that I've listened to. One was Hugh Van Carlenberg's, can't remember the name of the book.
Man, people have some interesting names,
Gem.
don't they?
Yeah, it's not springing to mind now. Really like awesome book. Highly recommend it in terms of self-development. I remember GEM. I can't remember what it stands for. Gratitude, empathy. What's the M stand for?
The thing is, you remember internally, right? It's a feeling. Like you just know what it means to be a gem.
But the other one, which I've actually listened to 3 times in the last 6 months, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Hey,
that book was
nice.
The first best part is he actually narrates it.
Yeah,
and
I've wanted to listen to it just for that simple.
What fact. A man! His voice is melodic. He reads it like a poet.
Yeah,
and he sounds like a poet too. He's like a modern day philosopher. Yeah. The amount I picked up from that, I even have like a note section in my phone, which has so many quotes or little snippets and stuff that are written down from the audiobook, which just like spoke big time to me. And every time I read it, I've picked up on something different, a few different things, and written them down. And I'm probably going to listen to it every 6 months or something. Nice. Yeah, awesome.
This is one of the benefits to doing this is like a filming an audio like thing, is it means that when I go through editing, I can actually like take notes on the things we talk about. Like, okay, this is the book that I need, and this is the book that I need, and it's like that, and that has to be probably one of the only books where you actually want the audiobook over the physical, just so you can hear Matthew McConaughey read it to you like when you're going to sleep.
Yeah, that's one book I'm not buying because that man, his gorgeous voice.
So for the camera up here, we've got to give us your best Matthew McConaughey voice.
Oh man, I can't
Come on.
I can't do anyone's voice, man. Maybe it's because I'm like half Kiwi, half Australian. I get mixed up over accents.
That's the McConaughey vibe that I'm getting, my guy. No, I love it. Hey, all right, so let's change gear a little bit from there. Sort of going back to what we were talking about before about the fitness side of things, the competitive side of things. So, you have done very well in the past competing in ICN. Taking out your pro card end of last year, was thankful enough to be there, and it was awesome to see. What are sort of the goals moving forward now? How has the progression been so far since it's been about six months or so? How's the progression been? What are the goals going into the future, and how are you feeling as a pro competitive athlete?
I guess I'll start with coming out of comp. That was obviously the goal, was at least get 1 pro card. I was aiming for 2, one with the NBA, one with ICN. Unfortunately didn't get the NBA pro card as well. Up against some stiff competition. I'm not one to go up on stage and be like, I should have had that win or anything like that. You bring what you have on the day. Whatever anyone else shows up with, you can't control. It's having control over the things you can, not stressing about the rest. Obviously achieved the goal of at least getting 1 pro card with ICN men's physique division, which was I was over the moon with. Against some pretty stiff competition in there as well.
Man, so I'll give it to you. It was a good lineup.
It was a fight out.
Good lineup.
I was stoked with that. Coming out was tough. Tougher than we probably intended, more so because Nationals was cancelled. That was 4 weeks later or something like that. So the original plan was to come into the state show at like 80-85%, NBA come in a little bit better, and then push for the final product for Nationals. With the national show being cancelled, that really threw a spanner in the works. And I remember contacting coach that day, Argy, and I was like, mate, Nationals is cancelled. We've got like such a short period of time now to dial in. I think it was like 4 weeks or something like that to dial in, rather than 8 weeks or whatever the time frame was.
True, because now you're planning on bringing that that A game package to an earlier show. So you thought you were going to be able to just like push it out and extend it. So you weren't planning on coming in as as hard for that state show. You were just going to ride it out a little bit longer. Yeah, okay,
which made sense with a lot of the feedback.
I get you. Yeah.
Hey, you need to come in a little bit leaner. If there was something that we could give to you, is come in leaner. I was like, if that's it, hey, we would have been if it was at Nationals.
You don't say. I thank you for that amazing advice. I'm just going to stick to this diet and absolutely want to die for the next few weeks. Jeez.
Because the when you're getting that lean, obviously it's a time factor. Like going from say 20% body fat down to 15%. You can knock that out of the park pretty quick, pretty low stress, but obviously diminishing returns when you're in a 6-month deficit and you're leaner and leaner, and then suddenly you've just got to, fight for 4 weeks. I was down at just shy of 1,600 calories all the time, which for me, I was still pushing a decent weight. I was like 84 kilo or something when we pushed our like final push into States. So it got stressful. Steps are up 12, 15,000 or so, I think sometimes higher. That's when I became zombie state. I was pretty good up until that last push where Nationals was cancelled, and then it was just hell for leather, and that obviously increased stress dramatically.
Yeah.
Pretty much, my work, obviously my career was put on the back burner. I was like, all right, I need to focus on this for 4 weeks once shows are over.
Yeah. So really the biggest goal at work becomes just trying not to snap at the slightest little thing. It'll just lose your shit because some kid decided to run across or leave something somewhere.
Work and personal life. Yeah. After my 2019 show, that was like one thing that I definitely wanted to focus on, because at the time, my partner, she told me I was a dick. I would just snap like that, and at the time I was like, no, I'm just
it's like internally we just can't see what's going on.
But then further reflection, once diet phase was over, I was back into a surplus, and I was like, you know what, probably was a bit of a dick.
Like, you know what, actually got a bit of a point there, man.
So leading into the next show, that was a big thing for me. I was like, all right, I did a lot of further reading, listening to the likes of Alberto Nunez, Eric Helms and the like, and talking about the fact that, hey, you choose this. You're the one that's putting yourself into a deficit. You're the one who's choosing to compete. Don't let anyone else be copping it because of your decision. And I was like, all right, I need to take that on board personally. That's self-development that I need to do and focus on. Hang on a minute. I am choosing this. I need to be really careful about how I am acting and reacting, and not having such a short fuse.
It's one of those things that it does become it's hard. It's like you're not intentionally doing it. You don't even realize that you're doing it at the time. It's just you're so fatigued and so exhausted and so run down that you just can't actually process or comprehend slowing down for a second. You know what I mean? It's tough. But I can see where you're coming from, where it's just, if you're going to put yourself into a position like that, especially if you have people who are close to you and rely on you on a day-to-day basis, you just need to, I guess, give yourself that little bit of a reality check and be like, hey, it's all good to just stop for a second, think about the things that are coming in, actually interpret them before I give a response. Do the good old Elon Musk, where you take 10 minutes to answer one question and you're just breathing through it, thinking through it. And then,
it also works because your brain doesn't work that quick on such a deep deficit. You need that long anyway.
Mate, my brain doesn't work that well when I'm on 3,500 calories, let alone on 1,600. I mean, geez, even when Claire came in a couple of weeks ago, she was saying that she finished her prep on 1,800.
That's awesome.
I know.
That's awesome. I was lower, and she got dicey.
Yeah, man, she was lean, and she was like, I had 3 days at 1,500, and the rest was at 1,800 lowest. I was like, damn.
I think our goal beforehand, if I recall correctly, was staying above 2,000 calories, like a couple of hundred over or something like that, leading in. In fact, we're at the point probably where we'll be starting to eat up into show. But, then obviously things change. We had to get dicey really quick. So
have you ever found that there's much difference, or it makes much difference between, say, cutting calories versus increasing cardio, increasing output? Have you ever found that there's, I guess, this massive trade-off point where it makes more sense to cut one rather than increase the other? Or
I guess part of it's down to time.
True.
The output.
Cardio takes time.
Yeah, it does, a lot of time. And you don't want to increase stress by doing some people love doing HIIT training and stuff. And I was like, screw that. Football days are over. I don't want to do cardio, proper cardio. I didn't do, we started adding a little bit of stepper or fasted cardio in the morning and stuff at a decent hook. I was doing 6.5 kilometer pace per hour for my walks, which was getting up there. Use a chest strap to make sure I was actually keeping pace and stuff like that, because I hated going on a treadmill. If it was clear weather, I'll be on the streets, I'll be walking. So I mean, it was more of a time factor. I was struggling to find the time to get 15, 17,000 steps in a day, plus have my work day, plus training. You've only got so much energy.
It almost really just like so when you get to a point where cardio is a luxury.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, it's just easier to decrease the food intake to a point. It becomes like, we got so deep, obviously, where it's like, all right, we're going to start losing some muscle mass here, but it's a given considering we've got to elicit that fat loss. It's got to come. So we've got to get deep. We've got to dig.
Yeah. And at that point, does, so I guess this massive thing in the fitness community as to whether or not macros, for example, matter. Did you find that like macro, like nutrient, like partitioning and nutrient, I guess dividing, how much of an impact does that actually play in your own personal experience?
More important. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be straight up honest. It's one of those things I've been neglecting for the longest time now. 1 week of like actually going back to caring about what my nutrient splits were and what my food choices were, and I feel a million times better. Yeah,
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because obviously one part of it is, my protein intake didn't really change the entire way through. Stayed pretty high. I think it was like 210 grams a day, which for like gym pop, they're like, how do you get so much protein in a day?
How much, sorry?
210 grams.
Oh yeah,
it's just over 6 meals.
Yep.
Just divide it. It was pretty easy. But it was more so carbs and fats were starting to get so low. I think fats I started pushing more. It was like I'd have a little bit in the morning and then a little bit at mid-afternoon, just to sort of try and carry me through those. Like obviously the overnight fast, just wanted something, first thing. And then when I was having a bit of a lull at work, I was starting to get, start thinking, oh, what sort of food have I got? The mind starts wandering from work to snacks. Yeah. I'd have a little bit of fats, then that helped out. But it was more so the carbohydrate intake, partitioning that around training, really important.
Yeah.
So it's basically two things, mental capacity for work and energy for training.
Yeah, you've hit that spot on. That was one thing that I realized I was actually like neglecting a lot, was pre and post workout nutrition, man. I didn't even like consider the fact that I was, but yeah, just getting in some like actual quality like carbs and like proteins like before training feels so much better going into those sessions, and just like run a lot better. And I don't know if it's just this like mental placebo, because I feel like I'm fueling myself better, that I actually perform better, but it generally has like made a difference in the way that I feel. And also just like throughout the day, like eating those better foods, I just feel better. I feel better internally. I feel better about myself. I feel like I'm doing better for my body. And it's having this really good carryover. So I feel like, IIFYM, it had its place a few years back, and I know a lot of people who still do it. And to an extent, I think it's great, but I think a lot can be said for actually putting a bit of thought into the foods you're having, what is actually contained inside of them, and how they will, I guess, carry over to the way you're feeling in the next 10 minutes, half an hour, hour and a half, 2.5 hours, and making some more informed decisions to actually increase performance, recovery, and, just be better in the long run, really.
I think there's two really important things to touch on with that that little commentary there is, one, with you're talking about placebo effect with, carbs going to training, be it, cardiovascular or resistance training. And this is discussed in Menno Henselman's book as well. It's just about, willpower and self-control. And it's, all right, what about, carbohydrates and training? So there's, I can't remember the authors, but they basically ran a test where, one, they took carbohydrates. So there's this like orange flavored mush or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically
sounds delicious.
all the different, like they had they couldn't, the subjects couldn't tell the difference, to make it a proper blind study. They had actual carbohydrate intake, and then training, and then they had a placebo, so no carbohydrate.
Yeah, nice. Actually,
they also had a mouthwash, which was just like a carbohydrate mouthwash. I'm not sure if that's the full extent of the study, but you'd think that, all right, so carbs fuel training, awesome, perform better. Have a placebo, some of them performed, some didn't. Having a carbohydrate mouthwash also aided performance better than just the placebo. So just the act of or washing some carbs in your mouth, you wouldn't think that would make a difference.
So it actually does, like, it has like an irrefutable carryover, like the actual having those nutrients in your body at that point in time does have a carryover to your performance in sports.
Even just thinking, I've just had some carbs in my mouth and spitting it out. That will aid as well. So,
sorry, I thought you meant like the placebo didn't have like an effect at all.
No. So that, like, the carbohydrate mouthwash wasn't the placebo. It was a placebo of no carbs, period, that they consumed carbs, and also just had a carbohydrate mouthwash.
I get you.
But, so you'd think the carbohydrate mouthwash wouldn't do anything, but it also did aid. So there is a mental aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
But it was more so like when you're that low, it's a matter of when you're dieting so deep. When you get that low, the carbs will have a big effect. Whether it's mental or physical.
You have one singular grain of rice, and a paper cut will kill you.
Mate, you get terrible sometimes. Like, I wasn't that bad at all on my last prep, but I was food guarding in my first prep. It was a short, sharp 8 weeks. Cut my calories like 50% immediately. It went into it as a pretty bad prep, to be honest, but it was more a tester. Hey, am I going to enjoy the sport, or do I just keep playing, team sports or something like that? And I loved it. So I was like, all right, let's do this properly next time. Yeah. But I was proper food guarding. Like, I remember one night I made this, I'm a bit of a foodie. I mean, you know me full well. I'm a bit of a foodie. So I made this beautiful, I got some cod. I had put some nice lemon pepper seasoning on it. I made some... Man,
there should be like a new rule for the podcast. If you're coming on, you gotta bring the snacks. You gotta make some delicious food for us.
Oh mate, it's a bit of a blessing and a curse being such a foodie. I'm in the wrong sport, man. But I've made this like beautiful meal. It was like asparagus, snow peas, and cod. I set it out as my final meal of the day, and it was like the one meal that I made fresh. Everything else was prepped. So it was nice to just end the day with a nice freshly cooked meal and just sit down and enjoy it. Sat down on the couch, and my partner at the time had walked in, and she went to grab like one of the snow peas or something like that. She's like, "Ooh, that looks good," and I proper barked at her. And then I was like, "Oh shit, what just happened?" It's like a wolf.
Don't mess with the man when he's on prep. Solid, man, solid. And how about sort of moving into the future now? You've got that pro card, you've secured it. What are the next steps? Are we still looking at competing like further down the line with ICN? Are we looking at trying different federations? What are those goals looking like?
Yeah, definitely. We're in the thick now. Now the real work begins. Obviously came out, like I said, it was pretty stressful exiting this last prep because we had to dig really deep, going into it. So we were teetering a wee bit coming out. Put on probably a little bit more body fat than I intended to, but settled quite nicely, and we're on a pretty good roll at the moment. So now it's obviously growth phase for the next season, looking at competing late next year, late 2023. Can't wait.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that'll be in the pro division.
I'm going to have to stop this real quick because that camera just stopped recording.
Stay tuned.
Give me 1 second. And we're back.
Welcome back. Apologies for those technical difficulties.
Welcome back. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I forgot that I accidentally left this camera in 4K instead of 1080p, so it completely ate through this memory card very quickly. But you've been enjoying my gorgeous face in 4K for the last hour, which is hopefully very nice. A lot of people have actually been commenting on the beard lately. I just started using beard oil, man.
Yeah?
And it feels good.
Getting some good growth going.
It feels good, like the itchy face is gone. It just feels better. It looks nicer.
This is totally unpaid. I don't get any commissions from this, but triumph and disaster. I think you actually hit me up a while back.
I did. It's one of those things. I asked you about it. I still haven't made an order just because money. Not gonna lie. So my money goes into buying microphones for podcasts. But I am hoping that to pick up on some of that soon because I see your skin, man. I'm not gonna lie. It makes me jealous. It makes me jealous.
Don't get me started on the hair.
Oh yeah, that is a question that we do have to cover, my guy. Like that hair routine, like how long is that?
Well, it depends on which one I've got. Like today,
say the day where it's just casually down.
Yeah, today you've got the curls. So this actually, I used to hate my curls big time, like growing up. Yeah, it started with Ashley's girl's name, and then curls were like girly when I was younger. So, oh,
Curls
mate.
for the girls, you know?
Oh, no, but at the time, no deal. So, yeah, only actually thanks to my model Italian barber, Massimo. One day he's just like, oh, let's try those
Massimo,
curls.
that is one of the coolest names that I've heard in a long time.
He wanted to accentuate the curls a wee bit, and I was like, ish, this is dope. So I decided to run with it a bit, but this takes a good like half an hour to do properly.
Jesus.
Mate, I've got to go, like, I've got to condition it, and then I got to throw some curl cream in, put like 20-25 clips in, and then blow dry it with a diffuser. But most people, I mean, yeah, obviously the name Johnny Bravo comes from the classic character, which I do not emulate.
I mean, I reckon that the show's actually ripping you off. I think you are Johnny Bravo. It is the invitation. Just saying.
Where's my commission on that? Now obviously the pompadour, that's sort of rocked for flipping years now. Yeah, once I started that, loved it, but that takes just as long, 30 minutes or so. Yeah, on a good day if it's working, but yeah, a couple of round brushes, blow dry, the works, man.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna stick with my get like two fingers, little tap of the wax, rub it in the hands, and just.
As much as a headache it is, I love it because it's different. You know.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, it's one of those things. As long as you enjoy it, it makes you feel good about yourself. And that's one of the main things, It's the same as, like, I guess when I don't get a haircut for like an extended period of time, I just don't feel myself, I feel dirty. I don't feel good. And this is a weird one. People might think I'm a bit weird for this, but shaving like my arms and my legs. Just saying, like,
if you haven't done it, try it.
Man, like, I feel
girls know what's up.
Man, like confidence wise, I just feel I feel better. I feel more like myself. I feel like I can talk better. I'm happier in myself.
Yeah.
And when it slips away and it starts to grow out again, it's just I don't even I guess notice it until it's already at a point where I just don't feel as good about myself. And then as soon
Basically,
as I do
like, from the jawline down, limited to no hair.
Smooth.
We'll leave that to the imagination, but limited to no hair.
But yeah, I think it's like little things like that just sort of make you feel better about yourself, and they have these massive carryovers that we kind of neglect and that we take for granted and put off. For me, it's doing that. For you, it's taking care of your hair and having it styled how you like. The other thing is actually edging down on the beard and stuff and keeping the neck clear and clean while the rest of it stays how it is. Like these little bits and pieces that just sort of stack on top of each other and have this massive carryover in the end. The 1% differences,
That's it.
Yeah. Getting back to what we were saying though before the cameras died about the future competing for Mr. Johnny Bravo.
So back to 2023 season. Obviously, this will be my pro debut. Yeah, that'll be going into. So as long as everything works out right for a season B competition, which
got some cool content in mind for that. I think that could be interesting.
Well, we can touch on that later. Yeah, this is awesome. Like seeing your progress. Yeah, with Fit Focus Media since we linked up.
Hey man, hey, you're one of those people that it wouldn't have started if you weren't there, man. It wouldn't have started if we didn't meet. So I got to thank you, straight off the bat for that one.
Big time, man. It's been awesome seeing your growth.
Cheers.
We'll touch on that after. I'll take over the interview process later in the potty.
Sounds good.
So I mean, obviously, there's some serious work to go in, before starting to dial in for comp. A lot of people do question, people out of the industry, question, they're like, 2 years between competitions, it's a long time, a lot of work put in. Really, it's not. You look at best practice for natural athletes, focus on the natural, because if you're super physiological, I mean, you can peak every 6 months and you can still grow. But as a natural, you look at if you can have a maintenance and surplus period of 3 times your diet phase before you diet again, prime. So if you go through a 6-month diet, obviously that means another 18 months of, growth and maintenance. That puts you.
I mean, so you got to take that whole cut length. In a sense, the first 6 months is really just trying to get yourself back into a mental state of normality, getting your hormones back in check, just getting back to being able to eat food and see us the mental struggles, like seeing yourself sort of shift back to normality in a sense before
reconnecting with humans.
Exactly, having a social life again before you can even think about growing and developing. So there is a lot that goes that has to go into it. Otherwise you bloody fall apart.
Oh, it's tough, man. Like for me, a big part. I mean, nutrition, it wasn't as hard as, like, for me, I'm a pretty social person, but outside of like work and training, that takes up most of my, weekdays, and then Saturday, Sunday, that's when, and Friday night, that's when, social kicks in. I love hanging out with friends, and spending that quality time with them rather than just through messaging and stuff like that. I very much like that in-person social interaction. So you get yourself at a point through prep where there's very few people that will continually ask you, every week or every fortnight to come and, hang out or to join in social situations, because they'll automatically think, they can't come and, hang out because we're at a party or, going to, a bar or a pub or a restaurant, and they can't have that food or they can't drink. So let's just not, tempt them, or let's just not invite them because they can't be a part of it. Becomes really tough, actually, because you just want to be invited places as well, and have the opportunity to say, you know what, yes, I can come along. There was a point, I think it was like 3 weeks out from prep, where I went to Greco restaurant, with one of my best mates. It was a bit of a celebration, and to be honest, he basically forced me to come, and he was like, you needed some time with friends. And once I got there, I was like, you know what, I really appreciate you pushing me to come, because I was in a,
we get caught up in our own heads, eh?
Yeah, mate, I wouldn't say a dark place, but mate, it was getting tough.
Yeah.
I needed to connect with people again, and people that cared about me. So, that was...
A lot of times it's like that thing that you think you don't want to do is probably the thing you need to do.
Yeah. And I was able to have just some, grilled fish, some salads without any oil and stuff added. Yes, a little bit tougher with Greek food, but I was able to make it work, with my intake for the day. But what was really important was that interaction. So it's like, that 6 months coming out of comp is a lot around focus, getting your intake back on track, and reconnecting with people that you probably lost touch with a wee bit, over prep. There are a few people that obviously through and through the whole way through, never lost touch, never lost faith. But some people just fell off the radar a bit, and understandable. If it's something that they do, and let's say if you're connected, through a friendship of going out on the piss every Saturday night, and you can no longer do that, it's understandable if that's your connection. Don't do that anymore. That your friendship then starts waning a little bit. Totally understandable. That's when the people that you have a really, really deep connection with will stay through that whole period. And I shout out to the people that were there for me that whole time, because without them it would have been tough. But I mean, if we're on track, competing season B next year, pro debut, I want to come in obviously, touch bigger, touch leaner, some sizable characters in that pro division. So.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, even you saying like season B next year, that still actually feels like a fairly quick turnaround. Like, I'm not gonna lie, man. It's like the 6 months between like your last show and now, it's gone extremely quick. When you're saying season B next year, I'm like, damn, that's only around the corner, man. Like that's actually like that's exciting almost. Like that's where you're like just starting into that mental state of like, all right, let's go. Let's start cheering the gears again. Let's like start putting the work back in. We've got this phase to put in the work, to grow, to develop. I think that 18 months is almost like it's good, because it gives you it's honestly like a medium length goal. It's not a long term goal. It's a medium length goal where you get clear cut phases and you can do exactly what you want to progress, grow, and develop in there. How about, I guess, outside of that, are you sticking just with ICN? Are you looking at other federations? Are you what is the goal for competing even in general for you? Like, why do you do it? Like what is the point of having a pro card? What is the point of doing a pro show? What is the meaning for you?
I'll be straight, I'm real competitive. Like, roll the dice, snap, Monopoly, you name it, I want to win. Yeah. Team sports, social leagues, whatever, I'm super competitive.
So is it really just about taking it as far as you can possibly go?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. A lot of people start questioning. I mean, there's people that have questioned already if I'm on gear. I used to hate that, but then I'm like, well, at least I'm doing something right if people are questioning if I'm on gear. So, but there was a question that came up, from a lot of people was, hey, are you going to go super physiological and see how far you can go, jump in like IFBB or WBFF or something like that? And that competitiveness is probably one thing that, there's two parts to it. That competitiveness stops me, because I want to be, without sounding like a dick, I want to be the best. It doesn't mean I'm definitely going to achieve it, but that's the goal.
There's nothing wrong with that drive.
Yeah, it's not about being cocky. It's about, I'm going to do the best I can to be the best. If I don't achieve that, I'll look at it, and go, oh, what else can I do next time? Just put it down on paper and go, all right, I can prep better, nutrition, training, whatever it is. But if I was to go into the super physiological leagues untested, jumping on all the gear, I'll jump on everything I can, because it's like dose response.
Double-edged sword, really.
If I'm going to be the best, hey, what can I take? What's going to hit that next level? Eric Helms said it really well himself. I was very much likening his response to what I would say, which is exactly the same. It's like you're opening up an absolute death trap almost with the depth you can go. I would rather stay natural all the way through and see. That's the other part of it, is I want to see what my body can do with what physically and mentally I can put myself through.
Yeah, I suppose that's like the last question then. When in that terms, it's like, how, what about when you find that actual, that peak, that top, when it's like you're doing your division and you are the best of it, you can't get better, people can't beat you. Is that when I guess the conversation comes to switch over to enhanced leagues or untested leagues, or is it still just, okay, I'll be the best at this and that's where I'll call it?
That's where I'd call it.
Right.
Yeah. And especially, I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of the news lately in the competing scene. There's a lot
it's been terrible, man.
There's a lot of guys dying. Man. A lot of guys dying that are all on these super physiological substances, and it's bad. It's bad. Yeah. So my coach said himself, he was considering jumping on IFBB stage and see what he could what he could get out of his body. Decided against it. Good judgment. He's really glad he didn't jump on substances now, because he's seen all these guys pass away at a pretty young age, and he's like, that could have been me.
Yeah. I suppose you really do have to take a lot of time to actually weigh up the pros and cons, be 100% real with yourself about your genetic potential, where your physique is, where it could possibly be, consulting with coaches, with judges, with all this and that and the other. Actually put the time into the making that decision, as well as educating yourself on it as well. There's a lot of people that I meet who they talk about jumping on stuff, and they don't even know the first thing about the stuff that they're planning on jumping on. And it's what are you doing at this point?
Stay in your lane.
Exactly, man. It's educate yourself. Even if you never touch it in your a day in your life, it still doesn't hurt to just know about it. But if you're actually thinking about doing it and you don't know the first thing about it, you're setting yourself up for a very, very rough road there.
Yeah, Guillermo Escalante, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's another academic writer and content producer in the fitness industry, and he runs out of San Francisco University or something like that. Physique Lab, I think it's called. He's put up a lot of posts on obviously the dangers of drugs and bodybuilding, and some coaches that put out some pretty extreme substance uses leading into show. He was touching more on the diuretic use and two particular substances that this coach had obviously put up his diary notes of, and some pretty intense and dangerous amounts, which he from my recollection that competitor was fine and brought in awesome stage shape, but potential a lot of people I think look at what someone else is doing and they just
jump on it.
I'll just do that because that works. Rather than going.
And diuretics as well have to be the most dangerous thing that you can diuretics and insulin have to be the two most dangerous things that are used in bodybuilding, and people just do it because other people do it. And it's what do you? Why?
Some pretty serious health circumstances that can arise from it, like hypoglycemia and stuff. So.
Oh man, even look at certain compounds, things like Clen. It's you can do so much damage to your cardiovascular health and system just by mixing up the tiniest little dosage error, even more so with insulin. That's the matter of life or death if you just are wrong in that measurement, the tiniest little bit. And people don't take the time to learn things, educate themselves, and actually weigh up the pros and cons. Is this worth it?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I've got nothing against the enhanced side of sport. I think too many people they look at it as like one sport. Yeah, it's two completely different sports. Yeah. It's not in the same realm. So I mean, I don't. Some people ask me about, say, competitors or competing on gear and stuff. I'm like, not my lane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people ask you for advice. It's like, I don't do this. I don't know. Like, it's like I don't feel comfortable educating on that because I just don't have that you don't have the first-hand experience on it, so it makes it difficult.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's like, why would you want to either?
Yeah, not my interest.
Yeah. Oh, look, man, I wanted to give you a massive thank you for coming on the show. I know you've got a few things that you have to get off to do, so I won't hold you up too long. But Ash, thank you very much, not only for being a massive, I guess, driving factor for starting Fit Focus as a whole, but also, getting into the podcasting sort of world of things, having these interviews with athletes. Had the pleasure of working with you on multiple occasions now, interviewing you on a few occasions. It's always good just to find out a little bit more about yourself here and there and just sort of help build that story. So thank you very much for taking the time to come on. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to say anything to the peoples before you go.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, I enjoyed being here today. Just a pretty impromptu chat and look forward to next time and the next project we work on, which will no doubt be pretty soon.
Hey man, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to cover in this one?
Not too much. I think today was sort of just about a general chat, really. So watch out.
Yeah, no, I think we covered some really good points here, and I think there's some really good information for anyone who is either getting into that competitive scene or has competed or is say maybe even looking at going up against you in Season B 2023. So
go for it. I can't wait.
Hey, he loves the competition. So if you're thinking about it, at least one of the people you're going up against, and there'll be a lot of physique updates along the way. So stay tuned for those.
Big time.
But thank you for watching. Hoping everyone has a good rest of your day, night, whatever it is when you're watching this. And we're out.
Ka kite anō.